All right, and welcome back to Edgier Than That. Today we're going to talk about a video that I came across that I found quite ridiculous. However, in the interest of not, I suppose, triggering the video's creator, we're going to be as respectful and as sweet as possible, because that seems to be one of his big hang-ups here. I'm going to be looking at a video from Geeks and Gamers, a pretty popular media YouTube channel, pretty heavily anti-SJW YouTube channel, because that seems to be the thing that I like to talk about here. This video is, I believe, called Respect is Not Earned, Not Given, It's Earned. And it makes some pretty bad points. In the interest of strawmanning his position, I am going to point out that what he actually argues in this video is the inverse of that previous statement. He's not actually saying that respect is not given, it's earned. He's really saying disrespect is what's earned. So I just want to get that out of the way. That's not like even a criticism, that's just letting you know that's what I'm going to be responding to, because that seems to be his actual hang-up. He basically is arguing that if you've ever been mean to him in the past, then he doesn't have to respect your identity. So let's get into it.
If you treat people with decency, generally speaking, you're going to get decency back. It doesn't matter who you are.
Iraq is a crappy place filled with a bunch of, semi-literate primitive monkeys.
Most happy about the new policy, these people. So, yeah. I'm gonna buy a plow, man!
Do you think it's possible to move a large Muslim population into the West and successfully integrate them into Western culture? Have you seen that anywhere?
Turns out the soil content is a high level of meth. Yeah, crazy.
It doesn't matter who you fuck.
And that's what homosexuality is. It's a sin against God.
It doesn't matter what you identify as.
Boys who say, I feel like a girl to death. That is such a bunch of garbage.
Actress Ellen Page, who is, was, and shall remain a woman, is now a man.
Lawmakers in 28 states are considering 93 bills targeting the rights of transgender Americans.
The fact of the matter is, no, it's actually not a general rule of thumb that if you, as a member of any minority group, show people respect, that you're going to be treated with respect. Now, you might get a little bit of the vague, like, oh yes, of course, I wouldn't mistreat you, or, it's okay as long as you keep it away from me. You might get some of that. And occasionally, you do come across people who are just 100% respectful and knowledgeable and understanding. But the truth is, so many people of so many different minority groups constantly face their lives mistreated, bombarded from all angles by other people in society. Now, things are improving, and it's perfectly good to comment on that and to point that out. But to say that it's a general rule that you're just going to be treated with respect as long as you're respectful is absolute bullshit.
The majority of those people that are identifying or pronouns and bios, they're demanding that you fucking do what they do.
Jeremy, is it okay if I call you that? You just made that up. That is actually not a statistic that you can look up anywhere, that the majority of people with pronouns in their bios, or who are, in your words, identifying as different things, are demanding. Plenty of people are making arguments as to why you probably should do that, and in a lot of cases they do make a fairly compelling case, so that's perfectly understandable. But they're not demanding it. And the ones that are generally speaking ostracized from the rest of the community, or are condemned for that sort of behavior. Of course, it's understandable that people would be passionate about this, especially since it's a major civil rights issue, so I think you might want to tone that down just a little bit, even if it were the case. But it's not. So, probably shouldn't say it.
Where are your pronouns? What do you identify as? Oh, you're a racist for this. You're a sexist for that.
Racist for what? Sexist for what? You actually have to be specific in order to make this point mean actually anything. Because I'm assuming you would agree that there are things people can say that are racist and sexist. So what exactly are they saying? Argue against that. Don't just argue against the concept of calling people racist and sexist.
When you start behaving like that, people are going to fucking call you out on it. When you are calling people a racist and a sexist because they didn't like a movie.
Generally speaking, people don't make that claim because you didn't like a movie. Generally, they make that claim for the reasons you didn't like that movie. If you didn't like Black Panther because there are a suspicious amount of women in it, as a certain other YouTuber does, you're a sexist. It's that simple. It's not because you didn't like it. It's because you didn't like it for that reason. You got to realize that. That's the criticism people are making. And if you really just want to boil it down to just because I didn't like a movie, you're missing the point entirely. Next, he discusses one of his long-term fans coming out as transgender and the general response to that. Context for this clip, he's basically reading out the tweet that this particular fan published, coming out and basically, telling the world what they prefer to be called and all of the stuff that goes along with that.
I'm not trying to take over the world. I'm just trying to live happy.
Now, hearing that, that's kind of depressing, actually. You shouldn't have to tell people that you're not trying to take over the world just because you're trans. I would think, wow, I'm sorry that you felt the need to put that in your tweet, but Jeremy takes a different opinion.
Yeah, there it is. I'm not trying to take over the world. I'm just trying to live happy.
So Jeremy's perspective on this issue is that it's a good thing that he made sure to let us know that he's not trying to take over the world. That was an important distinction that needed to be made, because somebody coming out as trans could mean anything. I mean, it could mean that they're a serial killer. It could mean that they're trying to take over the country. It could mean that they're secretly a CIA operative trying to take us out from the inside. It could mean anything.
And I said, you've always supported me in Geeks and Gamers, and we have your back.
Of course he makes it all about himself, because, I mean, what else is there? It's this person coming out as trans has to somehow relate back to my YouTube career and how successful I am. I can't just be supportive because I care about other people and want to treat them with dignity.
Guess what? Do you know why this person's getting respect? Because this person has always respected me.
I would just like to take this moment to point out that while that person's tweet very specifically mentioned that he would like to be referred to as he, him, I believe Jeremy only refers to him as he one time in this video, other times specifically saying, referring to him as they, or using his name even in his YouTube or Twitter name, even in places where it doesn't make much grammatical sense. It kind of feels like he's trying to say he's being respectful without actually demonstrating that. Now, I could be wrong. It could just be a natural linguistic tendency that he has, but it kind of feels like he's trying to play to both sides of his audience, saying that he's being respectful without actually correctly gendering this person. Again, could be wrong. That just seems to be the case here. The problem for people like this is that while, yes, deep, thoughtful respect is earned and takes time to build up, that doesn't mean that you get to intentionally misgender, harass, or otherwise mistreat trans people without being called out on it. You wouldn't say the same in any other scenario. You wouldn't say that if a black person was continually harassing you, that gave you the right to hurl racial slurs at them, because we understand that there is no threshold of respect that a person of any racial minority has to meet for you to respect their minority status. The same is true for anyone's gender identity or sexual orientation or anything else under the sun. You are not showing a person any sort of unique, special respect by calling them by the name that they prefer to be or the pronouns they prefer to be referred to as. You're simply being a decent human being.
You know what AFK Bard has never done? Called me a racist and a sexist over my fucking movie opinion.
Okay, I have a genuine question here. Do you think that movie opinions can be racist or misogynistic in any way? Do you think that there are ways that you can have opinions on movies that are bigoted? Yes or no? Presumably, you would say yes. If that's the case, do you think that maybe people could have a point if they're more experienced or familiar with this issue and they point out the fact that your opinions seem to be playing into bigoted tendencies, and maybe you could listen to that and consider it rather than simply dismissing it out of hand as ridiculous on its face. The fact of the matter is, yours and many people in your audience opinions on movies very heavily seems to be influenced by their disdain or at least disregard for minorities, both their identities and their just general value to society. So while it's true that it can seem kind of trivial and that your movie opinions can feel like a completely personal and subjective thing that the rest of society doesn't need to care about, there are perfectly reasonable criticisms that someone can levy against you based on your movie opinions. And sometimes attached to those criticisms come labels. If you don't like them, respond to the arguments genuinely so that you can reject the label or acknowledge that they're correct and adjust your view.
If you're going to throw labels out against me and call me names and call my friends names, I'll be damned if I'll respect you. Fuck you.
I haven't really discussed this much, but it's not really clear exactly what he means by respect here. Is he talking about correctly gendering a person? Is he talking about simply being nice to them? I'm genuinely unsure. And because of that, it makes this final argument very, very unclear. Because if he's talking about just being nice to a person, that's totally fine. If someone's an ass to you, you don't have to be a total sweetheart to them. That's totally okay. What you shouldn't do, and I would like to say can't, but of course you legally can do, you can say whatever the hell you want, is intentionally misgender them, harass them, or mistreat them simply on the basis of an immutable identity. That's where the problem lies. It's perfectly fine that you don't like the people who call you names. I understand, especially if you're just being defensive, why you wouldn't like them. That still doesn't give you an excuse to be a total piece of shit. All right, the rest of the video is pretty much just more of the same. Continually, whatever, reiterating, good God, the same general ideas. And while I find it interesting, it's not really worth going through over and over and repeating the same things. I do genuinely think that he's trying to both sides of this issue, because I think he needs to appeal to the person he's referring to, whoever the Twitter user is, the trans dude, while also appealing to his audience, who largely doesn't respect trans identities, and he kind of has to toe that line, because otherwise he wouldn't have a point. If he were to come in here and say, yes, I'm going to respect you if you're respectful to me, but then refuses to actually respect people who are respectful to him. So it genuinely feels like he's trying to get out of this and have his cake and eat it too, which is kind of a problem, because trans rights are an important issue and are under fire, as they always have been in the United States right now. So it's kind of weird to refuse to actually take a stance on this, which you'll notice he literally doesn't do at any point. But that's the video. If you enjoyed this, you should do the liking and subscribing thing, because that is fun for me, and also could potentially be fun for you. Leave a comment if you disagree. I will always try to, respond to criticism when I can, respond to as many comments as I can, as I see fit. Most, if not all, of the clips and images that I used in here are going to be linked in the description, so if you want to check up on particularly any of the clips that I used in the beginning, you totally can. I tried to represent them honestly, but you're welcome to be the judge of that. Anyway, thank you, and see you in the next one, assuming I don't die.